So you said that food is more than just recipes. It's culture.
Pay attention to how you ate growing up. Your mom and your daddy, or whatever they selected, even if they weren't cooking, what did they select to eat all of the time? That says something about their background.
What if you like everything?
From New Orleans, with the Forstalls. This is Local Legends. One-on-one conversations with some of New Orleans' most exciting and influential business owners, entrepreneurs, movers, and shakers. They're here to give their take on all things going down in the Big Easy.
What's up, New Orleans? Welcome to the podcast. I am your host, Jonathan Forstall. Today, we have a very special guest. She is a world-renowned chef. She's wrote a book. She's been on TV shows. She's done it all. And she's got an incredible story. Thank you so much for joining us, Chef Toya.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So take me back to 9-year-old Toya. What was she like?
She was good, but she was always in some sort of academic trouble. I really needed to be in an arts school. That was it. So I was in an environment that didn't really go with how I learned, It was a very straight line, and at about 8 or 9 is one of my first markers when I can remember how I cooked on the stove. I fried French fries for Latrice Pinkins. And it was a cast iron skillet. I remember they still have that same black skillet, my parents. And I put the oil in it. I watch for the ripple at the bottom of the pan when it gets hot. And then I cut up fresh French fries. And I remember something really specific about that moment is because with the fresh fries, Latrice thought, oh, hey, let's put salt and pepper on the fries before we fry them. And I was like, what? I had never heard of that. And so we were both in the kitchen like doing it. And then I fried the fries. But, when I think about it, I think, wait a minute, I must have been cooking before that because how would I know how to use a stove and not set things on fire? But that was 8 or 9-year-old me. Like food was essentially my friend because I was always punished because of my grades. My mother didn't really know what to do with that. All of my other siblings, they went to school and did well. So, having someone that was constantly, I was failing every year.
Wow. So you said that when you were younger, did you not know that you had that artistic side?
No. I mean, there was signs. Now looking back,
Sure.
Mama would be like, oh, that's why you went so crazy for school projects. Yeah. Like all my projects were always elaborate. She didn't know that. My father was I would call him an undiagnosed artist, because he was always making things out of driftwood, painting things, building things. He was a welder. So he knew how to build these crazy grills with smokers attached, like from scratch. Like he can cook, he can do all of those things. But I think when you grow up in New Orleans and you grow up with parents that are New Orleanians, both my parents were raised around the same area of Uptown. They have art, they have music, they have this. They don't think that, I may be a creative. I have a crazy, eclectic music selection and I make art that I decorate my house with. They're just thinking because they grew up in this city with all this art around it. Everyone cooks. So you're thinking, oh, that's not a gift.
What in your parents' mind kind of blocked them from allowing you to, go into your artistic side?
Fortunately, they were busy working, trying to keep us in a place where we weren't. The place that we lived at before, when all of that started bubbling with me unknowingly, creatively, that was the house that they struggled to get to so we wouldn't live in a bad neighborhood anymore. So they were busy trying to keep up with those bills and running behind that. Thankfully, the reason why I say fortunately, because I feel like everything in my life happened the way it should. I didn't find out my gifts till I was like 25.
Oh, wow.
So I'm grateful I didn't because the gifts that I have now, if anyone or the trauma that I hadn't combed through, who knows who would have taken advantage of me, how I would have used my gifts. I didn't find out my gifts until I really started engaging with the idea of God sending me to earth with a purpose.
Mm-hmm. And that's so powerful because every person's story is different, right? Mm-hmm. I too have a bumpy story, right? It wasn't a straight shot, like you said. It's sometimes you have to go through those struggles, right? Take me back to when you were cooking those French fries. You said you put the cast iron. Was anybody like watching you cut or? Than anybody?
No, my parents was asleep. Now, because my dad was he was offshore because my daddy used to work offshore a lot. And my mama was in between 2 jobs during the week. I woke her up and I said, Ma, Latrice is hungry. She said she's hungry. My mama woke up and said, feed her then, and went back to sleep. And I was like, okay. Because the rule is you can't wake her up in between shifts because she has to go be on. She worked at a hospital. She worked at 2 hospitals, Turo and Joel and Smith. She had to be on when she was at work, so she needed to sleep. And I went in the kitchen and I asked her, you want French fries? And she said, yeah. And my daddy heard that interview one time. And my daddy stopped and he said, Emily, we let her do that? Like, he was ready to blame somebody. We let her do that? Right. But
I imagine if I walked downstairs and my 8-year-old's holding a knife with a skillet, man, I might lose my stuff.
Listen. I was a different 8-year-old. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I knew my way around food. Like, I taught myself how to cook. Both my parents could burn, but I taught myself how to cook. But I started cooking by taste. I would taste things and be able to copy it. But it's the same thing with me creatively. If I could see something and undo it, that's just like my fingers right here, right? I tattooed my own fingers. Intense, I know. But I tattooed my own fingers. The guy was going over them and he was like, well, these fingers, they release, this part of your finger releases the ink and it doesn't stay in your skin. That's why you see people with faded tattoos unless you really scar the skin. And when I was watching him tattoo it and he was going over it for like the 3rd time and I looked at it and in my head, I saw it backwards and I said, I bet if he rocked like this and did something else, then that would make it stay. And he was, and I didn't want to critique him because he's an artist. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to get what I got paid for. And if it goes away, went to Amazon, watched a few videos. And the guy said, the biggest thing for you to jump over is inflicting pain on yourself. And I said, okay. And I got the gun and I did like this. And I did it myself. And this is years old. Wow. And it says Shekinah. It's divine light, divinity, divine light. So everything that comes from my hand will be divine light. That's why I wanted it there.
And you did that yourself.
Yeah, man.
And what drove you to, was it just because you didn't want the tattoo artist doing not as good as a job? You want to take it into your own hands? What drove you to put those tattoos on your hands?
I love that you said that because that actually is what I came to. When I did it, it dawned on me one day that, you know what? It was meant for him to do the outline and it was meant for you to finish it because you needed to do this work with your own hands. You needed to do that to yourself, and that was it. I knew it was symbolic and I knew I wanted this on my hands because all of my tattoos, I have a lot of tattoos, over 30, and all of them I saw on me before. Like God showed me a quick vision of it.
You envisioned it.
Mm-hmm. I saw this on my hands. And I said, and I was doing something in the car, or either I was going to sleep. I was going to sleep, and I saw Shekinah, and then I saw the words come up, and then I started counting the letters, and I said, Shekinah, I get it.
Wow, I lost my train of thought.
no, for real,
that's real good.
It's like it's my walls. You know what I mean? Like it's
does it
writing
mean more
on it.
than just a tattoo to you?
Oh, so much more. So much more. And then, a lot of times, especially depending on if you grew up in a family that doesn't have that. My family doesn't. So I had to explain to my mama one time what they meant, what my tattoos meant. And she looked at me and she said, "Now that's deep." Which was a big place because before she used to look at her and be like, "Toya, but you're so pretty. Why would you do that?" Right. But, she sees that they mean something. And also tattoos have energetic placements. So when you look that up to see where you decided to get certain tattoos, it makes you think like everyone means something. And, it's just how I decorate my walls.
The biggest thing is getting over the pain. And you just what, bit down? How did you?
Yeah, I
couldn't get my hand to my other hand.
It gave me the chills just now because it does. And this is actually the very first one I did when I got the tattoo gun. Love you first, me.
Oh, I love that.
So I can look at that and read it in my own words. And then this one is the other one I did. It's in you too. So if it's something negative that I see in somebody, be easy. It's in you too.
Ooh.
If it's something positive, it's in you too. That's why you saw it. So it's to remember either way. And then that's what gave me the, like, okay, I'm going to do this. And I got him to do it. And I mean, I did it. I got the gun and did it. And it was, like, the guy was like, man, you crazy.
Yeah. I mean, there is a little bit of crazy there, but I like it.
It's a touch of crazy.
You have to have a touch of crazy.
It is. You got to.
You got to.
And you got to have 2 other friends because there's got to be 3 crazy people together and you can get a dream off the ground. Only 3 people. That's right. All you need, the most.
Three, just a little crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Just that little element, the X factor.
You can do it with 1 person and a few computer programs, but but you really can get it done with 3.
You need 3 humans. That's right. That's right. So let's go back to your childhood, and was there any one person in your family that was prevalent in cooking that inspired you? That you said, "Well, go." Was there anybody in your family like that, or was it all just teaching yourself?
I can't say anyone inspired me to cook. Because it was so much around me and I was aloof to the idea of, I don't even think I even thought about a profession of being a chef. That's how much it's just food was everywhere. My mom, my dad, there was no gender roles in my house. So both of my parents did everything. So I didn't really see that, but I will say the one person who was a champion for me going to culinary school outside of high school was my mama. And she told me, she was like, you need to go to school for culinary arts. And I was like, I don't know about that. Because somehow in my mind, when I was a little girl, I would lock myself in the bathroom and I would get in the mirror and I would do acceptance speeches. And I don't know, I had no thespians around me, nothing.
Nobody telling you to?
Nope. Thank you for this award. Or just reenacting scenes from a movie. I didn't know that I was basically manifesting my life now as a child. So the food thing, it was something that just haunted me almost and was always there to rescue me. But mama caught on that, hey, she's 15. She's, every summer we go into summer school. Every summer I'm paying a couple $100 for her to take these classes. This is a trend. If you want to go to high school, then you pay for that summer school class. You better figure it out. So what I did was I went inside. I came home from school, went inside, made 2 plates of food, and I went down to the corner stores. I went down to one Danny and Clyde's and one called Super Saver. Funny story, Danny and Clyde said no. Super Saver said yes. That was the family that created Brothers. They eventually had another Super Saver in Marrero, and then they started having the Brothers as everything started growing, and that's how the Brothers. So I was cooking at the start of Brothers. I was 15 cooking corner store food for the neighborhood.
Were you cooking, like bringing stuff to them, or you were actually working behind the desk?
Working behind the counter, like, what, you need a however many inch po' boy? You need this? You want fried chicken and this? You want fried shish kebab? What you want? You want a hot sausage with cheese?
Gotcha. Were you actually preparing, like cooking and everything?
Cooking, emptying the grease traps.
Was that your first cooking job?
First job. 15.
Wow.
Ain't that crazy?
That is crazy.
It wasn't until I wrote it wasn't until I wrote Cooking for the Culture where I had to write stories. It wasn't until then that I realized I was ambitious. I didn't know because I'd never told that story to somebody.
Did someone push you to go to
Nope.
to work at that gas station?
Nope. I just went.
Hmm.
I needed money. How can I get money? I could do what they doing. I know how to make sandwiches. I know how to fry stuff. I know how to cook. I knew how to cook. I was punished every summer. I was in the house every summer with food. So I knew, or
Right.
people would give us commodity boxes. And I said, that's like my culinary Christmas.
That's crazy. So you getting punished from whatever you did at school.
Yep.
Turns into you cooking more at home because you got to and learning.
That was actually my art. I always said that I should have went to Anoka or something like that, but that was it, being punished. When she hears about it as an elder, it kind of makes her cringe, like, God, I punished her every summer. Oh my God. Because of course she's thinking in her mind, she was an artist. we didn't know this. You know, that kind of thing. And I told her one day, I literally got on my knees and I told her, Ma, you saved my life. I grew up nothing like none of the people around me. Even getting pregnant at 16, 15, 16. I was sweet 16. My sweet 16 birthday, no lie, was in Planned Parenthood. You know, so like, even with that, I still was completely different from all other girls who had babies because you kept me away and you were just trying to get me to do something different, you know, because whipping not helping, taking away the phone not helping. Let me punish her. Let me see if that works. But really what she was doing was giving me an opportunity to get to know myself so I could be myself, you know.
And how has that lesson, you know, that you've taken from your mom translated to you being a mom? Because you have, what, 3 kids?
Mm-hmm.
So how do you take that saying, you know, Mom, you know, did those things and punished me and that got me to where I was.
Mm-hmm.
How do you parent, you know, differently?
I don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. You know, a lot of people, especially by age group, you know, that 40s age group, you know, even some 50s, they can throw the baby out with the bathwater because of some of the trauma or things they've experienced. Newsflash, no matter how you're raised, you're going to have some sort of parental trauma. That's just the reality.
True.
You're being parented by a human that is not just mom or dad.
And there's no playbook.
No.
They
just was thrown up into the water, swim.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just it, right? So I look at stuff and I think about what she got right more than I think about what the younger me could have thought she got wrong. So I think about what she got right and I go from there and I just add emotional intelligence on top. Unknowingly, she just relinquished and just surrendered to it. She wasn't trying to give me freedom, but at some point she kind of just was like, she's not gonna iron. Please don't expect her to match. She's going to do whatever she wants. She might wear a costume today. I'm not fighting with her. Unknowingly, she might cut and dye her hair in the bathroom and come out a different color. Listen, I can't control this one.
Right.
But really what she ended up giving me is just freedom. So that's what I do with my kids. I give them creative freedom. I read their gifts. I have a good knack for looking at kids and knowing what they like, that's your area. And I don't push them there. I just put stuff in front of them.
And why do you think you have that catch? You think it's your artistic side or you think it's more related to your childhood?
I think it's spiritual.
Spiritual.
I think my gifts are, I have a heightened discernment and I just have a knowing. And I believe that I was gifted that knowing because of my character to not abuse it. I never abuse my gift with people. There's no need to.
You started your first job at the gas station. You were 15.
Corner store.
The corner store. When you started that job, did you have any idea this is the path I'm going down?
Nope.
None. It was just a job.
Yeah, I thought I was just getting to high school and I didn't even think that I was going to be anything. Mm-hmm. So I had no aspirations.
So at that point, you're 15 years old, working at the corner store, cooking. Where did you see yourself in 5-10 years in terms of career?
I didn't see myself.
Didn't see me.
I did not think. It wasn't until when I was in my late 20s where I could see myself at 30. I still, because I was so self-destructive, you know, so I just couldn't see myself as an adult. And then it wasn't until I could really see myself at 30, and that's when I thought, oh, well, I might be more. By then, by 25, something like that, I knew around 25, I accepted, I saw that I had a gift to write and that when I spoke from my center, people would pause. You got to imagine, I'm cool now. I was not cool in high school. No one thought I was cool. I was always a little off because I was different from everybody. So yes.
Yeah, but it sounded like you just didn't know your identity at the time. You didn't know all that. You didn't know all the artistic abilities and the extent that you really had.
Some of that, and then some of it, I knew who I was okay with being who I was because I was always by myself, and it just didn't fit in rooms and stuff like that. But which that was a gift too, because by the time I started, I noticed that people would pay attention when I spoke or people would pause and I walk in a room. I was like, okay, so whatever that is, I want to protect that because I feel like I saw a girl get her hair cut like mine. I had this cool shaved head at one point And I saw her get the haircut and I thought, wait, you know how some people would be ego driven, like she's copying me. No, I thought she's following me. Where am I leading her? Don't follow me.
Right.
I don't have it figured out. I'm literally destructing myself every night at about 11:30. So I don't know why you're following me. You know, that's when it all set in. That's when all I have is set in around 11:30 at night.
Gotcha. All those stories. Yeah.
All those stories, habits. You just like, let me grab a cup of bottle of this, whatever. Yeah, man, that's how it happened.
How old were you when you really grasped your artistic abilities and the, you know, the grasp what you could do?
A full grasp, about 26.
And what was your first artistic endeavor?
Writing poetry.
Writing poetry.
The city knew me as a poet before a poet and an actress and an abstract artist before they knew me as a chef. I just popped out of the blue as a chef. They didn't know I was in culinary school for like 12 years.
So, wow.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about that poetry. What did that part of your life look like?
I took a long gap from my relationship with God for like about 7 years, right? And about 6 years, matter of fact. And I decided to just go sit in the back of church one day. And I went and sat there. And when I came out after a couple times going, I just pulled over in the car and it was like words arrested me. So like I just had to start writing down. I grabbed a notebook and I started writing everything that I was thinking. And when I went back over and read it, I said, whoa, that's something. And then after that, I kept doing it and kept doing it and kept doing it. And I started seeing all of these things come out of me. And, you know, at that point, I was telling somebody, I was like, I think I might go to a poetry spot. And, you know, they were like, oh, you know, come up with a name. And I was like, what you gonna name it? They was like, what you gonna name yourself? And I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna name myself. And then she was like, think of a name. And I said, I don't know, maybe church. Because Bishop Don Wine was hilarious to me where he would go church, like with Snoop Dogg. And so I said I was going to call myself church jokingly. And I started ending all of my poems with church, not knowing until later that my gifts were prophetic. So everything that I was speaking into existence and speaking onto my life. So when I would say, accept the redemption, church, the battle was already won, church. So I'm saying, accept the redemption, Toya. The battle is already won. Toya. You know what I mean?
Right.
You will be this, Toya. So it was interesting. So that's, the poetry came first. And then after that, I found out that I had synesthesia. So I could see sound. And basically with synesthesia is like, the best example I can give is like, if this is a normal set of your senses, right? Your 5 senses. Someone with synesthesia, it's just the wires are crossed. So I explain things, which is so funny that when I was young, people used to respond like I was off or just like stupid because I would say things a certain way. Say, man, Toya, what you talking about? Why you always talking so crazy? And I'm like, no, if I'm explaining that something sounds or looks or like they'll mix up things that shouldn't be mixed together, like saying something is or sounds not sounds crunchy, but it's like an abstract way of thinking and perceiving things around you, right? So that's what it was. So when I started doing that, I would paint songs and then write the messages I would hear from the inside of me. It's actually on YouTube. I can send it to you. This videographer, Chance, did a documentary on me, and the Times-Picayune covered it. And I did my entire walls and my ceilings. I turned it into an art gallery in my apartment. Did not get my deposit back. And I took 2 of their doors. The doors were nice, and I felt like they were mine, and I wasn't getting the money back.
You painted the doors too?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
They're my mama's garage.
Gotcha. It's worth the deposit.
It was worth. I wasn't getting it back.
Yeah, you knew that.
I had to kilt the place, though. I did kilt it, though. I did, because I painted the ceilings. I had mannequin heads hanging. And when my mama walked in, that's when she found out I was a true artist. She walked in, and it was this moment as a parent. Looking back, when she said it, it kind of made me stop like, ooh, I almost cried. She looked at the walls and she said, because at first she thought I was crazy. And then when my daddy went and confirmed it and he looked around and he said, don't you think you got this from anywhere else but me? He said, I used to do stuff like this. I always wanted to do, he said he always wanted to do his apartment.
Oh,
and he never did it. Isn't it crazy?
That is so crazy.
And then my mama,
like father, like daughter.
And then my mama came in after he said that, and she looked at everything. She said, "I wish I would have known to give you this." That was the one sentence she said that I remember from that day.
Wow.
And she did.
Yeah.
She don't know she did fully,
She did.
but she did.
She did, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I have a very similar story where, it is not the straight path, right?
Yeah.
And it is bumpy. It's got turns, it's got lows, it's got highs.
Mm-hmm.
And my father always wanted me to go in that straight path, right?
Yeah.
And I wouldn't change anything.
Right.
I've had some crazy stories. But it got me to where I am,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I respect that and appreciate that.
And it refined you.
It does.
Because when you think about whatever happened, I don't know what happened with your life.
Mm-hmm.
But when you think about what happened with your life, when you look at, we start out in this world like a piece of coal, right? Mm-hmm. And then we have to have a lot of cuts that turn us into a brilliantly cut diamond. You have to get all of that stuff off. And some of that stuff you don't get off. When you look at raw stones and stuff, some of it looks murky on some spots. Some spots, if you look up like on Etsy, if you look up like raw stones, some parts is shiny, some parts is pretty, some parts is like ugly looking and dark, right? Some of that darkness is meant to stay. But it also, it creates the contrast so you can twinkle in the right spots.
I love that.
Ain't that something?
That is something.
Mm-hmm.
I bet you got a lot of those artistic metaphors, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. The good ones, too. I have to write those down. That's good. So what was the stepping stone, between writing poetry
mm-hmm.
and becoming a chef, right? You had that artistic, you were writing those words down, creating masterful poetry.
Mm.
What was the bridge between finding out, all your artistic ways to becoming a chef?
Honestly, that's why I went to culinary school for 12 years. It was a 2-year program, but I dropped in and out over and over again because I was taking theater classes at the same time. And I'd say, no, I'm doing only theater and film.
Did you bounce back and forth?
Yep. I did for 12 years. It took me 12 years to finish because I just was like, no, I know. I never wanted to be famous, but I knew that my gift was meant to be put up so it can go like this. Poof. Like I knew that part. So you telling me about the kitchen, at that point, I wasn't really sold on a Black woman getting the emerald situation going on. You know what I mean? And my professor was, I thank God for her. But she was always like, you can do this. You can do this. If he can do this, you can do this. And I'd be like, come on, Chef Ruth. You think I can do everything. You think I can walk on water, don't you? You know what I mean?
Sometimes that's what you need is a cheerleader and someone to push you into that direction. So 12 years in culinary school, at the same time going to theater school.
Mm-hmm.
What were your aspirations in the theater world? Like, what were you kind of...
I wanted to be an actress and then eventually move into directing. So I'm a screenwriter now. Like I have scripts written, all that kind of stuff, like from like film, episodic. Like I still love to write and do that. And I which was interesting is that I had a whole bunch of stuff, like traumatic stuff happen. And then I got out of school and I stopped doing poetry, art, all of that kind of stuff. Had my son, ended up, at the time I was about to get married and I got fired 2 days before my wedding.
Oh my God.
From the bank. Oh yeah, I was a horrible teller. I'm talking, and listen, you're a lawyer. Y'all deposit money. Yes. Let me tell you, one of the biggest mistakes I did that let me know, Toya, wait, hold up, Molly, you in danger, girl. What really let me know I was in danger was when I took someone's $50,000 deposit and slow processed it instead of doing the next day. And they were looking for the $50,000. And the next day I come up to work and the manager is like, hey, Toya, did you sleep well? And I said, yes, I slept fine. She was like, you want to know what time we got out of here last night? And I was like, what? And she was like, 8:00. And I was like, what happened? She said, you were short $50,000. And I was like, I ain't take $50,000. She's like, I know you didn't take it. At this point, every manager I had in my life was treating me like I was that bad kid. Like, I know you didn't take it. So they found that I processed it wrong. They had to call the business and apologize. And I was just like, man, I am not cut out for this kind of job.
But they didn't wait till after your wedding?
No. But they still gave me my vacation time.
Okay.
So I still got a check after that. So I felt like it was kind, but it was perfect because when she was like tearing up in a meeting, I was like, ma'am, we know how I was messing up.
Right.
Like, come on.
It ain't.
I know.
Yeah.
I know I was crappy.
The 50K is there. You know, I didn't take it.
I mean, you know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, she found it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but still, like, I just had a ton of things that was like one of the things I was messing up on. So after that put me in a position where now he's my ex-husband. But my husband at the time, he told me, he said, you know, you need to go and do what you're great at. And he didn't really know me that well, but honestly, at the time, because we got married really fast, like 3 months. No, 6 months, I'm sorry. Like that was a year later, huh? No, 6 months.
A whole 3 extra.
It was 6 months, not 3. Thank you. We have time. But I can't believe I heard myself and say, girl, why you said that like you said a whole year? But anyway, so I go back to school and I'm crying every day in culinary school, thinking I'm gonna be stuck in this. I'm gonna be stuck, and I'm just gonna be in the kitchen, being somebody's like sweaty worker, blah blah blah.
You didn't want it, or what?
I didn't want that. I knew I was supposed to be in front of people. I knew that.
You were a leader.
I knew it. And it wasn't like I was chasing accolades. I just knew on the inside what I was supposed to do. Well, after I finally get out of my feelings and use a whole semester crying going home, I go to the bursar's office and I'm like, hey, like, what's up with my next classes? How much long do I really have? Because I'm like, Toya, you really don't know how long you have to graduate. I go there, they look at me like I'm crazy, take me to the dean, and then I find out that I'm supposed to graduate this semester because they have no more classes for me to take. 12 years, of course I took everything on the roster. Of course.
Of course.
Of course. And I jumped so high that my glasses, these are prescribed, my glasses dropped off my face and cracked. And when I looked at the floor, God said to me very clear, you'll never see yourself the same again after this. And I didn't. It was like everything went pew. That one piece of paper. You know, I was that person that would say, you don't need school, you don't need this, you don't need that. You know, you don't have to have this, you can do whatever you want. Some people need it, but that piece of paper, graduated from school, opened up a door for my first culinary job. That's how I met Kevin Belton, my first professional culinary job, Kevin Belton. And he was the one I was teaching at New Orleans School of Cooking. And I was after the interview when I accepted the job, I sat through his class and I watched him and I thought to myself, I wonder what this means. Like, whatever. I was just thinking, I think I'm probably just going to be behind a stove my whole life. I don't know. Maybe I'll never get to the stage again. Maybe I'll never get on camera. Like, maybe whatever. I'm thinking all of that. I walk right up to Kevin. He don't know me from a can of paint. And you know what he tells me? He looks at me and he says, food is a vehicle for you. That's all this is. And he said, this stage here is practice. That was nothing but God. That man didn't know me. But that soothed me enough to make me stop fighting with God, which is why I have peaceful conversations and olive branches on my fists, because I was always fighting my journey. Why do I need to go there? I don't want to go there. I don't want to do this. So then that made me relax and I started knowing. And then after that, started a YouTube channel and, and then I started getting contacted by Food Network and it just started spinning.
So how did you have that internal grit, that internal fuel to not take the traditional path and go to the YouTube channels and go that non-traditional path?
Man, you got to realize that I didn't know I was anything until I was 20-something. Imagine you're at least someone's baby boy, someone's favorite this, someone's that. I was constantly truthfully, in the moment at that time, a disappointment. Mm-hmm. I was constantly messing up. My other cousins and stuff were making good grades in school. I wasn't. I ended up pregnant. Then I was a single parent. So now I look even, whatever. So it's just like, I just didn't have any ambitions. What do you want to be? I don't know. I didn't have anything.
Right.
So I didn't know any of that. So when I found out that I had something, I'll tell anyone this. The worst thing you can do is rival, and this even my children, I'll tell this too. The worst thing you could do is rival my purpose. Because when I found out that God put something on the inside of me, that's it. Everything's going to have to mold to it or it's going to get burned off. And everything in my life molds to it. It's unreal. Even down to my kids, like the times they were born in and how they were born. Even the synchronicity of them being born on a Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. What? Like, it was just how things would happen with me that it's undeniable. So you can't tell me anything else.
Right. Mm-hmm. Wow. 12 years in culinary school. I'm sure, again, in and out, back and forth between theater. What would you say, for those of us who haven't been to culinary school, myself included, but what do you take away from culinary school that is not what you learned on your own or what family members taught you? You know, what is it about culinary school that...
There's a certain power that comes with technical knowledge, right?
Okay.
When you learn technical knowledge, that's just like you learning the law. You know, it's one thing for someone to be like, there are people who are born lawyers, right? Meaning like you can hear the way they speak, the way they defend, the way they look at things from multiple angles. You could think, oh, your profession, you would be really good as a lawyer, you know? Not the typical, oh, because you argue a lot, you would be a good lawyer. You know, people think that. But no, like some people have this ability to do like, and when some people can look at something like this, a lawyer can look at a whole bunch of angles at the same time, right? It's just an interesting way, right? The same thing with that. And when you learn the laws and stuff like that, you're like, nope. Because see, like when natural gut can tell you something, your natural gut can be wrong. Your natural gut sometimes will choose a lover that you shouldn't. You know, your natural gut will do a lot of things. But when you have the technical knowledge, some things I can look at it and I think that's unwise. Well, why do you think that's unwise? Well, it's worked for me before, but I'm telling you technically, that's not wise. And it's a temperature safe, it's outside of the temperature safe zone. There's a zone when you cook things and when you store things and when you're letting it cool. There's a part where it's hot and there's a part where it's cold. That middle ground, there's a little slither in the middle where bacteria can grow. That's how you get all kind of issues. You get bubble guts right after you eat it. Yeah, something happened in the middle, fam. You know, so.
Right.
Yeah.
But like,
so,
man, that's just something, and I feel like you said, cooking is an art, right? And there's only so much artistic ability that one has. Obviously, you have all of it. But I guess for those who, you know, want to cook but might not have that artistic ability, what would you say to them that are, you know, they want to go to culinary school, you know, but they don't have either family or whatever it is that's pushing them into that, you know, artistic side?
Let me tell you something. Whatever is a natural gift for someone can be a skill if it's taught. So that's it. So what I would suggest for anyone to do, educate yourself. Even if you have a natural gift, educate your gift. Why do you think all of these artists and people who are like savants, they still study, they still watch other people, they still whatever, even if your thing is going to meet new people to watch behaviors. There's actors who do that all the time. They just watch people to watch, oh, he moves his body like this. I should probably try that when I'm being this person.
Right. So just always, and always being open. And
always being open. Try to learn. Educate yourself. Take the ego out of the kitchen. If you take the ego out, you can learn. You can be moldable. Like, you know, the whole, like the scripture about the meek inheriting the earth. Like the meek is the ever moldable, changeable, like pliable, open. It's not just, oh, meek. A porridge, please. Help me. I'm so timid. No. If you look at it from a power standpoint, meek is somebody who's like, what's next? What I got to do? What you think I should do? No, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Well, teach me a new way. You know, teachable. Remain teachable if you want to do something. And now, you know, another thing I left out, one of the biggest things with going to culinary school, the professionalism. Figuring out like price points. Man.
I didn't even think about that. Yeah.
Man, I see, it's just like, it's almost sometimes it's a telltale sign when you see certain things. You're just like, what is your profit margin with that? And when you don't go to culinary school, sometimes that's not the first thing that you're thinking about, you know, but this is the thing. I feel like you can learn everything on your own if you create your own learning package. You study YouTube videos, you take a little online class. They got Udemy. They got all kind of places where you can teach stuff. You can learn stuff for like $8.99, whatever a month or something like that. You can educate yourself, but honestly, and then the connection with school too. These culinary schools, you got a professor to go back to. That means you got recommendations. If you're trying to work in a restaurant, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or like they got that place, Noki. I went to Nunez, but for some people who are older who can't do a 2-year program, Noki has something, and they're getting you into all of these. You're in a loop already when you work with them.
One thing that I noticed, I have 2 daughters, 8 and 4, is that I continuously push them to, try new things and delve into their, creativity and or if it's not creativity on their left side, right side brain, whatever it is. And I'm noticing very quickly that one of my daughters is that right side brain and one of my daughters is the left side brain. What's one thing that you would say to parents that, might not be able to pick up on, on their child's talent, right? If they're, like my dad sometimes had trouble picking up on my creative side because he was so left brain, right? And he was so reading and lawyer and I did have a creative side. Just like you, I had a creative side. I had, I was building models when I was a kid. I was doing all these things and I wasn't, in his mold. So what would you say to parents that might not be able to see?
Work with your kids and plan and try to work yourself to a place to help them do the things that you'd be too afraid to do. Let them be themselves. Don't try to make them you. Yeah, they come from you. You're like a soft guide. Like you can look at your daddy and say, okay, I got to watch out for this. Okay, that's my good thing. I got to watch out for that. I got to be happy about this thing. There's always those things, right? But you're not exactly him. Right? So there's a part of, there's this book that I will not brag like I read the whole book, but I read the beginning, caught the gist, and put it down.
Gotcha.
And it was Rick Warren. It was about finding your child's purpose, right? And it made me look at things completely differently. But he said, you can tell a child's purpose by the things they play with and what they do. And he said, you can see that very early. They're just coming into this life and you have to help them unwrap the things that they already know. They know everything already. We come here fully equipped with all the answers on the inside of us. Like, why would God create something like half done?
Right.
Right. You know what I mean? It's obviously going to have it, right? So like the whole idea is that like he gave himself as an example. Rick Warren was at one point at least, I think, I don't know if he still is, a church farmer. Someone who, like you have a church idea, he'll help you plant the church in the right place and, help you set up your community, outreach, all of that kind of thing, right? But you know what he played with as a kid? Farm toys. When you think about what I played with as a kid, I had these, now if you was born in the 80s, these little toy pieces of meat and vegetables. They start off really white and like pale, but you put them in warm water and they turn to the color of chicken. They turn to the color of a piece of broccoli or whatever, right? Easy bake ovens, dolls. I would cut their hair and do different things to it. In middle school, I did hair in my mom's bathroom and charged people. So interesting that, you see those things,
Yeah, and that is so true that you say that, because right when you're saying that, it's hitting home. When I was a kid.
What you play with?
I used to build massive Lego sets, and it would take me weeks and weeks and weeks. But what it was for me is I wanted to take something that I can envision and build it and see it.
And look what you're doing with this.
Look what we're doing.
You see what I'm saying?
Come on, you hit the nail on the head.
Yeah, and this is just the beginning of what you'll build.
Right. But it took me a while to figure that out.
And you got to comb through stuff.
Right.
When you have that kind of right brain, and if you have a child that has a right brain, I'm not saying all children like that deal with addiction or self-defeating things, but a lot of them do because we have so much going on in our minds at one time, and you're almost trying to make yourself normal. So like, why would you drink so much? Why would you do this? Why would you do that? I'm trying to get to normal, baby.
Right.
Like I'm trying to be normal. My mind is on 17 and yours is on 10 on a good day. So I need to tone down this sound, and that's what people end up doing.
So in those early days when you graduated culinary school, you took that leap. You said, I'm going to go this way.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's going this way. I'm going this way.
Yep.
How was that not intimidating? How was that not scary? How was that,
I couldn't feel. It's just, I couldn't feel. I'd already seen some of the worst. That last pregnancy that I had, I was pregnant on house arrest for like traffic tickets. Man, shout out to Gretna. Man, get it together.
So
but you know,
I
was big and pregnant, and I was wearing pink that day. I'll never forget, because I thought, look at me. They're never gonna, look at this big belly. I'm wearing baby pink. They'll never... that man looked at me, looked down, wrote down, and he said, house arrest. I was like, I was verklempt.
You were not ready. You were not ready.
I wasn't, but I'd already seen the worst of what I could see: abusive relationships, all kinds of things, addiction. Like, I'd seen so many different things that I was just like, it ain't what I seen, so let me go for it.
Only upward. Only can go up.
And I don't even know if I was thinking about that. I was just thinking about listening, just following what was inside of me. Because, seemingly when I go against it, I always end up in trouble.
So in those early days after you graduated from culinary school, what was those biggest struggles, those biggest hurdles that stick in your mind that will stay with you forever?
Feeling like I'm not going anywhere, and that I did this for nothing. Because you start seeing things in slow motion. You start feeling like, okay, like I'm done with school and now I don't have this, or I'm going out for these shows and, I didn't get this or that. There was a pivotal moment with Hell's Kitchen where I was supposed to be on that show. And that was going to be the very first show I was on. And I went out for it, got pretty far in the process, sending my IDs for flights and everything. And then they texted me and told me last minute that they decided to go a different direction. That broke me. And after that, when I finally came out of crying nonstop, I came out and I said, you know what? F this. I'm going to create my own show. I'm not waiting for nobody to give me anything.
So after you got rejected, you didn't say, shucks, now I have to find something else to do. You said, no.
After crying for a few days.
Hey,
I was crying.
We need to be all up in our feels sometimes,
I was crying.
I do it too.
Oh, don't worry. I was crying. But I just was like, I'm not waiting for somebody to give me something. And then, I started doing a YouTube show, and then that ended up being one of the things that got people's attention, the networks.
So that was the first real pivotal movement to building your brand, was the YouTube?
Yeah, and it wasn't, and let me tell you something, if you look at my YouTube channel, there's no personality, but I will say this, it has the numbers it has. I've never went viral one time at all either. And it just has the numbers because it grew organically because people could actually follow the recipe. It wasn't something that people give you half the recipe and be like, go ahead, tell me how it turned out, because they don't want to give you the whole recipe. I was just bearing all. I got criticized for that.
It's so simple, but
I just was telling the truth.
Right.
You do this, you stir it like this. I didn't know that I had a teaching gift. And there's a difference between someone who gives you information and someone who can actually teach it and make something complex. Like, I make gumbo that can take people hours, and I've heard some people say 2 days, which is wowing to me. But hours, and take it down to 6 steps, essentially, so your mind can understand it. Because I know how I need to hear. I need to hear bop, 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 bop. Okay, and then the details are going to come out to me after. But I need to hear the chunks of what it is.
So were you developing your platform to kind of have those gourmet recipes, but just make it simple? Is that kind of where you were going with that?
I didn't even want to do New Orleans food.
Really?
I was so mad that I do New Orleans food because I felt like I want to, all chefs want to show what they could do. So I was thinking, how about this? I'm going to take restaurant favorites and then recreate them so people can have them at home. Because at that time, we want a crazy tight budget. So we weren't going out to eat. So if I wanted something, I was making it. So I wanted to do that. The video kind of went blah. My ex-husband was like, he said, you need to do New Orleans food. And you need to stop trying to hide your accent. Like, stop. That's it. And I was just like, all right, whatever, I'm going to try it. I tried it. I didn't hide my New Orleanian accent. And I made crawfish etouffee, and it went 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000. And I was like, and he was like,
see?
but that's when
right.
It takes time for you to love where you're from a deep place.
I feel that.
Mm-hmm.
I feel that. And genuinely,
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. To really, and to not just do it as a marketing tool, but do it as keep it in here.
Yeah.
Right? I guess starting a YouTube channel and doing everything that you did in a city that is known worldwide for its food, for its restaurants. I obviously, you went the path of not going to New Orleans, but then you came back to Had to, right? Mm-hmm. That's who you are through and through. Starting this platform in the city that's well known for food, restaurants. How did you differentiate yourself? How did you, separate yourself from the rest? How did you do it? It's amazing.
I didn't try to do any of that. I was just being myself. I didn't try to be different because I am different. Everyone's different. There's no other you. And once you catch on to that, whenever I do public speaking as well, whenever I speak to a group of young people or even artists, I tell them, I said, man, you have elements of your body that no one can duplicate, that will literally identify you if you was just a bag of bones. There's nothing you have to do to be different. You're already unique.
Right.
No one can, and I didn't set out to be different. I just set out to display myself. And I really did, when you think about it, I guess breaking it down to the basics, I just believed. I believed that I had something worth to say, and I said it with conviction, and I meant it.
So you say, you're not being different because you just are different. What makes you different from other chefs?
I think what makes me an individual is that I try to be as raw of a person that I can be all the time. I don't code switch in any way. I'm just my authentic self and unapologetic, and I show up as myself all the time. There's no mask. So I think that's what highlights my individuality. I think all of the chefs in New Orleans, we have something alike. We all have a certain kind of grit alike or something. Even if you're a white tablecloth chef, you might be a little different. I tend to be a lot different because I'm more of an entertainment chef. I'm not someone you could just pick and say, hey, cook for me. You know what I mean? So it's a little different. But, I think me being okay, I just posted about this earlier this morning. And I'm a multi-hyphenated artist. That's why I stopped using, if you notice on my book, on my website, it just says Toya Bodie, because it gives me the ability to have an umbrella, for people to know. And that's why in my books, I lace in art. There's visual art, and there's also written art. And then you can also see that I'm a writer, but then you can also see I'm a poet at the same time. There's different pieces, So I was telling people this morning to just be brave enough to be yourself. That's what God wants. That's why you have all of these talents. You know what I mean? That's why you have all these abilities. You're wondering why you don't have what you have. You got to go inside your inner well to get it, So, I think showing up unapologetically, that's what made me stand out to people because they could feel that it's real.
So when was that first time that, in your head, you thought, wow, all this hard work is paid off and I've made it?
Crazy enough that it was not when I first started being on television. It was actually maybe, I want to say what that was. That was a Mardi Gras, the Today Show. I was with Hoda. They had me come out for a Mardi Gras special, and then I found out, I'm always, because I don't read emails well, that I'm always finding out that something is bigger than what it is, like the day of, it's what? I'm like, I'm just going here for a few minutes. It's crazy.
Might be a good thing.
It's crazy. So I got there and I was doing all of these recipes, and it was a long segment. And TV time is a long time. You get 5 minutes, that's a long time. And, on that type of station, and I'd never, done that like that. And I went, it was snowing, and I got back to my hotel room, and one of my favorite songs is going to be the song that plays at my funeral. I Did It My Way, Frank Sinatra.
Mm-hmm.
So I had that song in mind, and I was looking out the window like 2 years ago, and I saw the snowflakes fall. Now, mind you, I've been on television 2015. It's 2026. It was just 2 years ago that I realized, I'm really moving. Because I had been on myself all the time. Like, you're not doing enough. You're not doing it. I was always critiquing myself from being that screw up. It helped me to get out of a place, but it was eventually turning against me and becoming bars to where I wasn't allowing me to enjoy stuff. And one time, a pastor, she told me, she said, no matter what you accomplish, you never seem like you're really happy about it. And I paused, and she was like, yeah, you're still punishing yourself on the inside because you spent all that time punished,
Wow.
feeling like I need to recoup something, right?
Yeah.
So that time, 2 years ago, I saw the snowflake fall in New York, and it was something about the way it twisted. It clicked. And I thought, oh my God, look what I'm doing. And then I called my professor. I was talking to my professor, and I was crying on the phone. I'm in New York. I'm doing this. And I was doing a Mardi Gras special. And I'm the chef. And none of this other stuff. You would think, I was on a billboard for best chef, one of the best chefs in Louisiana 2 years straight. Still didn't hit me. I'm just like, I got to do more. I'm not doing enough. Am I anything? It sounds crazy, but that's what we really are like. Like, that's what I was like about everything. So
how did that segment go?
It was amazing. I was blown away. And the people were like, man, I really like your food. And I went home, and I got back in town, and I remember getting on my knees and telling my mama, thank you. Because she was sitting in her recliner, and I laid my head in her stomach, and I just cried. And I just said, thank you for punishing me. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for riding me. Thank you for being firm with me. Thank you for not being too soft. Like, my mother is a goon. Like, she's a beast. Like, I had a baby at 16. I had a cesarean. The very next day, she made sure that she said, get her out of this bed. We need to get the catheter out, do this, do that. She needs to walk.
The day after?
It was the morning. It was hours. She opened the curtain. I remember it was purple outside, and she put on the news. And then I asked her, what was she doing? And she said, life don't stop. I'm not adding. I'm not embellishing. She looked at me, life don't stop. And then she picked up the phone, and then she said, you need to get her out this bed. She needs to walk. And I was walking, and when she, again, that's another story that she used to go, maybe I shouldn't have been so rough. No, it was perfect, Ma. God, it was perfect.
Made you who you are.
Oh my God.
Yes.
I can take even like within this last creation of this book, I got a new book coming out, Cook It From Scratch. That's coming out in June. Throughout the process of the book, I had to deal with my mother fighting for her life with multiple brain surgeries, aneurysms, all of that, going through divorce, selling a house, getting a new place to stay, acclimating kids, working out things with the co-parenting, because that's gratefully is a healthy situation that we co-parent well and stuff like that. Like, I had to go through all of that stuff at once and write a book at the same time. And I hold a crazy schedule. Like, we did 70 photos, 70 shots, recipes within like 14 days. I normally, the last book, Cooking for the Culture, I did in 10, between the hours of 10 to 3, but we had different stuff. I was in and out of going to the hospital with my mama and stuff like that, like my siblings and I. But yeah, so yeah, like if it wasn't for her, there's no way.
Was Mom the disciplinarian? Was she the...
Mm-hmm. She was. My daddy was not. He did not, which was probably stressful for her. But what he did was his portion. He was supposed to teach me how to be an artist, no matter what.
Mm-hmm. That's who he was.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. He was who he was, no matter however you look at it. He was the reason. He is the reason I have the wide music palette, the reason why I know how to do so many things. I used to have notebooks, and I would flip them open at school and find sketches in a notebook. And then I would see that sketch built.
Oh, wow.
People wonder why I execute. Ernest Grant Thomas Jr. That's the reason why I execute the way I do. I would see an image and then I would go home and do this. Oh, it's made.
It's made. That's possible.
That's how, I'm sorry. I'm going to tell him about that. I'm going to tell him about that.
I bet you would love that.
I never said that. It wasn't until I'm talking to you about it now that I'm saying that. But he's the reason. That's the most compliment. That's the biggest compliment I always get. I just love the way you execute.
Love it.
But that was him. He taught me how to execute those sketches in my notebook.
And so mom and dad, mama played her role, dad played her role, played his role, and dad didn't know he was an artist. Mom thought she was too tough, but look how you turned out, right?
Man.
Wouldn't change a thing.
Not one thing.
I love that. I love that. So you mentioned the book, and I wanted to segue into that. You're a poet, you're a writer, and you're a cook. So you just did the natural thing and married the two and wrote a book, Cooking for the Culture, right? Tell me, what inspired you to write that book?
Doing this thing on television and being in the food world, you see quickly how much the New Orleanian culture is pirated. Everybody wants to claim it.
Yeah.
And I get Louisiana is Louisiana, but we're United States of New Orleans here.
That's right. What state you from? New Orleans. Right?
Shout out to Jacques Francois, the artist who honed that statement. But it's true, the United States of New Orleans. And when he drew it one day, I thought, that's exactly it. Because you see people from different parts of Louisiana. They say, I'm from Louisiana. Where you from? Don't be putting yourself in the category of New Orleans, baby. You from somewhere else. Lafayette, they have good food, but still.
It's not New Orleans.
It's not New Orleans. But still, I love them. That's nice.
What does that title, Cooking for the Culture, what does that title mean to you?
I wanted to take people and let people have a peek over the New Orleanian fence, what it was like to grow up as a New Orleanian. That's why I have fried eggs and rice in the cookbook. Because that's just a hood classic. That's just something like, somebody would look and say, man, now that's a hood classic. I can't believe you put fried eggs in. You put one of the most popular struggle meals that ran across the projects. And why would you?
Good, right?
But I just did it like normal. Because it's just how you ate it. I made it just like that. Or I did like the commodity peanut butter cookies, or I did a whole bunch of different things. Like
And the book, just for those who are watching who haven't seen it yet, it's not just a cookbook. Tell us what it's about.
It's low-key a memoir, and it's basically using food as that vehicle and driving you through my whole life. So I talk to you about like what it was like waking up in the morning, hearing Channel 4 blaring and hearing the dog food hit the bowl, smelling coffee, smelling food, like what it was like waking up as a New Orleanian. That's all our parents. Our elders, they blast, the news before going to work, and stuff like that. And then I bring you all the way through, even down to me. I talk about the story where how I found out I was pregnant at 15. And how by the time we went to Planned Parenthood for the appointment, it was on my sweet 16th birthday. The only time in my life that I did not get a cake for my birthday. Like it was I walk you through that. I walk you through my pregnancy cravings as a teenager. And how, like I used to work at Winn-Dixie as my first legal job. And I was cooking, I was taking frozen meals, and I was like, I can make that. And I would look at the picture, and then I would taste it, and I would go on the aisle and buy the ingredients to make it. So like I walk you through my entire life, getting all the way to television as well.
And what do you hope that people take away from that book?
That you can do anything. And that if I tell you, like our mama read the book and said, girl, you told all your business in this book. Like when she did that, I said, oh, no, that's funny. But it was true because I wanted to be transparent so people could see, wait a minute. Now, this girl, people look at me and they assume silver spoon fed when they look at me first glance. They assume that, oh, she probably went to this kind of school. She probably went to that college. People romanticize what they think by just looking at me. But that's why my face wasn't on that cover either. I didn't want people to get wrapped up and then think that, oh, I bet you, people always assume, you went to Anoka, huh? No, I didn't. They assume all of these things. So I wanted to show you beyond what you see. You see me on TV. You see me on doing all these things and getting these awards or whatever. But where did I start? how did I get there? In that book, I told you how I got there, right? So in that book, I talk about how everything built from the YouTube channel to being on television, to being eliminated a couple times, to whatever. And then segue into the next book. The next book talks about, what it's like to start from scratch. You go back to cooking from scratch, Emotionally, I was starting from scratch, but then I go back to cooking from scratch in a certain way, just to heal myself, to nurture myself through some of the hardest times and transitions in my life. So all of it is very transparently done.
And I consider myself a transparent person as well. I'm an open book. Do you find that people react well to that they appreciate that, or they're more, bashing you for the things you might be saying?
No, I think people are very receptive to that. I think they're relieved by it in a world where everything is like filtered. I think people appreciate how forward I can be. Well, sometimes.
Right, in the right setting.
The right setting. I've definitely disciplined my forwardness in a certain way to have tact. People don't think about that. There's a certain way you could say everything.
Sure.
I had to learn that, of course. But I think more than anything, I think what people really love about the way I am is that they can always count on it. They can do like this real fast. Toya ain't gonna like that. She's gonna be okay. She's not gonna go for that. That's not gonna work out well. People know where to put me, and they know I'm really, can I speak colorfully on this?
Absolutely.
Oh, I'm very sugar or shit. So people can depend on that, and they're like, oh, okay, I know. Either she deal with me or she don't. There's no middle.
Was mom and dad like sugar shit?
Oh, yes. Both my parents. They're like that. They'll look at you quick. And that's just how they are. And they're just very, very forward people.
So you said that food is more than just recipes. It's culture. It's a story. It's a way of loving out loud. Tell me what you meant by that statement and what, the audience can take away from that statement.
No, it's words when you don't have them. There's been multiple times. My daddy beat cancer, right? But when he first got diagnosed, when I got the call, I said, okay. I got off the phone and I went to Rouse's and I bought a bunch of sweets, banana pudding. I just bought random shit. I just bought it and I went to the house, and then my sister was there, my other sister was there, and my mom and my daddy, and we just was eating off of random stuff. We didn't talk about nothing. None of the diagnosis, nothing. We was just shooting the shit and just eating random sweets and just talking and whatever like that. And I felt like, see what food does? We're not doing anything. It's just some sort of conversation. Another instance, to give people an example, my mother was naturally very upset with the path I chose, having a baby. Because she felt like, God, we did all of this work to give you this better life and you chose a hard road, So of course she was upset with me and didn't speak a lot during the pregnancy. And I remember one day I went and sat at the counter, and I had just started showing. I went and sat at the counter, and she looked up at me. She didn't say nothing to me, and then she went in the refrigerator and started cooking. She made fried liver and grits and gave it to me. She knew I was low on iron. She looked at my eyes, and she told me, eat this. Now, later I figured out why, and I talked to her. She told me why. And you give that to women when they're low on iron. So she saw dark circles was forming on my eyes because I got a baby growing in my body, and you can't survive on hot fries and Zaps, going to high school every day. You know what I mean?
Right.
You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
So, that was, even though she didn't talk to me that much that day, I remember feeling loved, and that shows you what food can do. We see that often in New Orleans. Like, food is just a communication. And when you look across cultures, it's the same way. And it's also honoring your heritage because, I did a talk one time for Cooking for the Culture, and I was talking about Black culture. We was on a plantation, and this guy who was white came up to me, and he was like, I don't really have like a culture background. I don't have this and I don't have that. And I said, that's not true. I'm telling my story for you to see inside of a Black life so you could see what's going on with the possibilities, right? And the different angles and things we have to go through navigating through life. and struggles. But also pay attention to how you ate growing up. Your mom and your daddy, or whatever they selected, even if they weren't cooking, what did they select to eat all of the time? That says something about their background. If I can see how you eat, I can see where you come from. You ate a lot of potatoes? Probably some German somewhere in there. You don't know. You know what I mean? You're always eating certain things, like say you like sausage a certain way or whatever like that. Maybe Polish. You never know. Maybe you like certain meals. Maybe be Sicilian.
What if you like everything?
But
yeah, right.
But there's something that foundational meals that you gravitate towards that say something about your gene pool. Always.
Fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you gravitate towards?
I like savory flavors. I like comfort meals. I like gravy. I like gravy a lot. Like gravy, greens. I love collards. That type of thing. If I had to think about something that I can eat over and over again, it would probably be.
And so what does that foundational recipe say about you?
It's like the base of a gumbo. It's basically, if you can make a roux, if you can make a roux to make a gravy, you can make a roux to make a gumbo. That's how you take everything from feeding 5 people to feeding 15 people. It's a resourceful recipe. It's a recipe that's be flexible. Gravy and rice. Okay, I made last night for dinner, I made smothered potatoes and onions. And, that was just a regular oil gravy, right? But if I flip it and switch out the fat, then I got I could use butter and flour, and now I got an etouffee base.
Mm-hmm.
If I want to go home and add, well, not with potatoes in it, but if I had a regular gravy and I want to go home and add like about 2 quarts of stock to it, add some stuff, add some meat and seafood, I can have a gumbo if I stretch it. You know what I mean? The resourcefulness, I think that's what it tells about me. I've never had somebody ask me that question, but yeah, that's what it tells me.
Your story is definitely incredible, right? You came from a house where you didn't know your artistic ability. You grew into what you have. You had all of your struggles. You pushed through everything. What has your journey taught you about perseverance?
It's not easy, but it's worth it. And it's better to know than to not know. Because you can sit and think that something won't work out, or you can try to see if it will. Because it may just work out. What if, there was this one day I was walking and I released a video about it, and I could see why it started buzzing, because I said, you know what the real fear is? That it may just work out. That's the real fear, that it may happen exactly the way you think. And then you're going to have all the responsibilities, because accomplishing something is nice after you get the pat on the back. But the uncomfortable part comes when everybody's expecting it.
Right.
Oh, trust me. Cooking for the Culture had not been out 2 weeks. I went to lunch with the publishing people. I went to New York for something, went to lunch with them. After 2 weeks, she put the card down to pay for the bill. And you know what she told me? Start thinking about the next book.
Ooh.
Girl,
okay.
I haven't even processed what I wrote the last book.
And you're already...
How could I? And when I got home, I said, you know what? That's what people are afraid of. And my professor gave me some advice, because I went to her with like tears in my eyes, and I was like, I don't even think I can pull another one out right now. What are they expecting? And she was just like, you just kindly tell them that you're going to start thinking about it at some point, but you're resting now, or whatever. However she worded it to me, that made me stop crying. But I felt like I'm still trying to recover from the first book. Because you got to realize, right, I talked about angles of my experience that I'd never seen.
Right. How are you supposed to top that and write whole nother book about it?
No, I had to go through all of this
mm-hmm.
in order to get here, to find like even how I even got to the next book. All the things that happened in between that led to that, that made me in a position to want to talk like that and even be brave enough to talk about what I was going through.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us just a short, I don't want to give too much detail away, but a short snippet of what book is coming, Cooking from Scratch?
Cooking from Scratch,
mm-hmm.
Yes. It's a cookbook that pays homage to Melinda Russell, the first free woman of color to publish a cookbook. And in her cookbook, when I was given, one of my friends as a historian, I was given this manuscript of her book, right? This PDF. And I was like, wait, this lady has how to cure corns, how to remove hair dye, how to make house cleaner, how to bake a cake. What are you talking about? How does she have everything in one book? And I realized, oh my God, she was brilliant. She put a book together that was essentially a whole community in a book.
Oh, wow.
Because when you think about it, when you think back, right? When Africans got removed from Africa, they broke up the village to do so. They got to the plantation. At some point, they started rebuilding that village. This person cooks, this person does this person does that, this person is the healer, this person is the midwife kind of person, whatever, right? So you have all of that going on a plantation for, 400 years. And then after that, they're spread apart again. You gotta know the person that was doing certain tilling probably wasn't cooking, probably wasn't doing this, probably wasn't healing. Not everyone had the gift of being a midwife. So when you think about that, she put everything in a book. So basically, they had the whole idea of how to run their whole life in a cookbook.
Wow.
And I was like, that's why they called it domestic guide. It was genius. And, she was doing that book in order to purchase, a form of her freedom. She wanted to move back to her country where her family was from, Liberia. She was trying to get back there. That didn't work out, but this book was created, but her journey was crazy. She started being robbed and she had money stolen from her. Her husband died. It was so much stuff that happened on her path, but she kept trying. And there's not much about her out. So when I started thinking about the new cookbook, I thought, you know what that would be good for? That would be good in the day and time right now. Teaching people, I said, but the only thing different I would do is teach people how to build community, make the recipes definitely more accessible, because those recipes were old school recipes. So they was like 2 sentences, Jack.
Right.
It was like a fist of this, a pinch of this. Whoa, Melinda, did you say a fist? Where's the rest?
Where's
the rest of this recipe? But, that was in their lingo then. So I went through this time now, and I also poured in a few things that we were talking about before about like showing people how to integrate other cultures into your lifestyle, right? It's, you can do that through food. Learn how to love other cultures through food,
Wow.
know what I mean? So
And
that's
when does
what
that book come out?
A release date is June 16th. Yep, but the official launch event is on June 10th, and it's going to be at Whitney Plantation.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that for you. Having a big event?
Yes, indeed.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's going to be Juneteenth, so it's going to be nice, and I'm excited about it.
I love that. So what does being a New Orleanian mean to you and shaped who you are as a person?
Like when you just said being a New Orleanian, I think about somebody that's real. You travel and you go to other cities, you can't look jokers in the eye like talking about it. You can't. It's not the same. It's not the same. The feelings are different. The people are different. We have a certain warmth that's in calm sometimes that's misunderstood. Because a lot of people from other cities, you meet people from different cities and they come here and they start thinking that like New Orleanians are slow or, the big easy or whatever. And it's like, no, we're not slow. We're also watchful. So we'll watch you and watch what you're doing and see how we're going to feed ourselves to you. So that slowness that you're looking at is really us doing like this to you. But you don't know it, and we're reading you, and we know everything about you, just about, and that's how we deal with you,
And I think there is a lot of misconceptions. Not all bad, but some misconceptions about New Orleanians. And I went out to California for undergrad, and they're like, "Where's your Southern accent?" I'm like, I'm from New Orleans, right?
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I have a little, but they just some stereotypical stuff that got some rapid fire questions. I do this with all my guests.
All right.
Have some questions, 4 or 5 questions to ask you. 20 minutes. You got a quick meal to make. What are you making?
Chicken, vegetables, and rice, or either just vegetables and rice. No. If my kids, with the kids,
with the kids,
fried egg and rice.
Fried egg and rice.
And that's going to be under 20 minutes. but fried egg and rice.
Gotcha.
Hands down.
Fried egg and rice.
They'll pass up fast food for that.
Stop.
Mind blowing. I was in a store, I was trying to get stuff, and I talked about going pick up something, and I said, or you want egg and rice. Egg and rice? What?
Didn't even think about it.
Crazy.
I love that.
Crazy.
Fried egg and rice.
Mm-hmm.
That's in your cookbook?
Yeah.
I'm about to get that. All right. What's your go-to New Orleans restaurant?
I've just learned how to pronounce it properly. I have been New Orleanian-fying this place. I used to call it Neo's, but it's actually Neo.
Right down the street.
I didn't know it was Neo.
It's Neo. Yeah, you didn't know that?
I had no clue.
I love that spot.
I was at this kids thing, this Iron Chef event at Arthur Ashe Middle School. It was so cool with a whole bunch of chefs, and Chef Shireen was there, like the Chef Jared from Neo's. He was there as well, and we had these 9 8th graders that we all had to man down and cook a meal on burners in an hour.
Wow.
And have 6 plates plating done creatively.
Wow.
Yeah, it was cool.
That's awesome.
It was so, I rarely say things are fun because I'm always just thinking about working, but like that was really fun. And at the end, I was like, boy, I said, as soon as I saw your sweater that said Neo, well, I said Neo. As soon as I saw the sweater that said Neo, I was like, oh Lord, that food gonna be good because I love that food, right? And then I was talking to him and he said something and I said, wait a minute, that's not how you pronounce it. Then and he said, what you been saying? I said, Neo's. But the food is so good.
So you ever had I think it's the sweet potato casserole? No, I mean the carrot souffle.
Mm-hmm.
I said sweet potato because it tastes like sweet potatoes. It's sweet. Yeah, that's my wife's favorite spot. She drags me down there as much as she can. I go there too many times. All right.
Man, it's good.
All right. What's your favorite place, the go-to place to grab a po' boy?
Po' boy, a corner store.
Corner store.
Yeah, I mean, I know Parkway has good ones, but am I driving to Parkway? Probably not. I'm going to stop to a corner store, a gas station, and then I'm going to get something probably.
You got a corner store, like a neighborhood you go to? Like,
I mean, I live in Holly Grove, so there.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
All right. What's your go-to spice?
One spice to take with me somewhere?
One spice to take with you somewhere. What you taking?
Garlic salt.
Garlic salt. All right. And lastly, your favorite Mardi Gras parade?
Femme Fatale. Mm-hmm. I rode with them last year through Essence magazine, and it was really fun. That was my first time experiencing that. Outside of that, like I really am not a big parade person, but my son, he's in a marching band. Yeah, you know what I mean?
I got you.
I show up, but
so you rode last year. You cut up?
Oh, man, I had so much fun. I was like Santa Claus. I was throwing stuff at people. I was so glad it was just like limitless because it was just so sweet. You got to see elders. You got to see kids. You got to see, they just, I don't know, the optimism in their face when they're catching things. It just felt fun.
It's different being on the other side, huh?
Yeah, I was looking at them and I said, look at these elders. Look at this couple. Oh, they came out and they just standing there. You just want beats, don't you? Take them all.
Are you going to ride again this year?
No, they didn't ask me to ride again this year, but, you know, maybe next year I'll ride with somebody. I don't know.
I got you. Good. Well, thank you so much, Ms. Toya. You had such a good story. So she's got, as you heard, she's got a book coming out on Juneteenth this year to follow up with her last book. Last book was Cooking for Culture. This one's Cooking for Scratch. So look out for it come June time. Thank you for tuning in. Stay tuned for next time. From NOLA with the Forstalls is presented by Jonathan and Chip Forstall. Executive producer, Mona Lisa Johnson, Sierra Media Productions. Host, Jonathan Forstall. Casting director, Jonathan Thomas, Ascension Branding and Marketing. Post-production editor and voiceover talent, Matt Pawlowski, Redline Studios in New York City. Produced by Ascension Branding and Marketing and Sierra Media Productions. Thanks for listening.